This show is brought to you in association with HostGator, where web hosting is made easy and affordable. Check out our hosting plans over at hostgator.com. Hello and welcome to Gamers, Geeks and Media Freaks, the fortnightly show that brings you the latest news and reviews from the world of video games, movies, TV shows and technology. Welcome to episode 11. Got loads of great stuff to talk about.
All the ones.
Yeah, a few bits to talk about from Comic Con which happened a few weeks ago. We posted a whole bunch of stuff on our Facebook page related to Comic Con, some of our favourite panels and happenings. So a lot that's been posted there and it's been widely reported about. So we're just kind of throw in a few small stories from Comic Con as we go along. But let's first talk about some video game stuff. So for video games, we're going to be talking a little bit about Batman Arkham Origins, which I know you're very excited about. Huge Batman fan.
Guess who picked this story?
Yeah. No prize for guessing who. But you want to talk a bit about the multiplayer reveal that was recently shown?
Yes, there's been lots of, I'd say, non-educated gamers demanding or wanting multiplayer for the Batman Arkham games. How would that work? They'd want co-op, they want all this and that. And I've been dead set against it. And then when they announced that we were getting multiplayer for this one, I was like, oh hell no, I don't want that shit. And then I saw the trailer for it and yeah,
you want that shit?
I want that shit.
Yeah.
But it's not being developed by the main team. There's a separate team working on it. So it's not going to cut into the development of the main game. It's 3 versus 3 versus 2 multiplayer.
Okay.
So basically you get 2 teams of 3. They're kind of Bane's gang and the Joker's gang. Everybody knows who the Joker is. Everyone who's seen Dark Knight Rises knows who Bane is. They have like different gadgets and stuff. And it's typical sort of third-person shootery affair with tools and stuff like the Arkham games.
Cool.
But then you get 2 characters who play as Batman and Robin, who then they're like the typical apex predators. They're stalking around the ceilings and seeing all this shit going down.
Pretty awesome.
Then picking them off one by one. So yeah. So multiplayer is going to be awesome as long as you're Batman.
Yeah.
For the other guys, it's going to suck.
Yeah, true.
But no, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully, when the game's released, I'll be here to give a review of it and let you know what I think.
Indeed. Some news coming out of Take 2. It's been revealed as a trademark for Bully, and there's hints of a possible sequel to Red Dead.
Yes.
Once again, something else. Who picked these stories?
I wonder.
Go on.
I can't. You can't deny Red Dead was an amazing game.
Okay, I haven't replayed it.
But you can't deny it.
I kind of can't. I haven't played it.
Anyone who has played it can't deny it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's amazing.
Can I?
No.
Well, you know, it did really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
did
can't deny
really,
that.
really well. And like I was saying to you before, they've developed this engine for Grand Theft Auto 5. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's current gen. They're going to push it to next gen. It's probably still going to be using the same engine, just like extra resources and stuff behind it. They're not going to just push Grand Theft Auto 5 out and say, right, that's it, let's work on a new engine, improving it, and do Grand Theft Auto 6. They're going to want to utilise what they've got, which means, Red Dead, Bully, which I actually really liked.
Yeah, it was cool. It's quite a fun game.
The main character did kind of look a bit like Wayne Rooney, but I won't hold that against him. So more sort of open world madness. It's all good.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I mean, obviously, I think this is a big hint as to what primarily Rockstar are going to be doing for the next gen market.
Yeah.
Before, obviously, because we haven't got GTA 5 yet. To assume GTA 6 is around the corner is a bit naive. And obviously, when it does come out, it is going to be next gen. But I think they're going to try and fine tune, like you said, the engine and how things are going to work with next gen with these 2 titles. Probably Bully, then Red Dead. I would have thought.
Yeah.
Because obviously, there's always going to be some sort of issues, things to tweak and sort out before you bring out the big game.
Yeah, it'll be prototyping. Like I said, when Grand Theft Auto 5 was first shown off, I think a lot of stuff that they learned from Red Dead then transferred into that. It's the way it looks, the way the engine runs, and certain things about it. So there's going to be some crossover there.
Yeah.
But the whole story came about was the fact that the CEO Take-Two was talking about like their main franchises, not like single games, but the ones that they care about, and Red Dead was mentioned there, which is kind of a big indication that there's more to come.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
excitement abounds.
Yeah. Actually, I'm kind of excited with Bioshock, and admittedly I haven't got around to finishing Bioshock Infinite yet, which is kind of sucks. But there's been an announcement for DLC, and it's going to be called it's 2 parts to it. It's the Burial at Sea DLC.
Yeah.
And it's returning to Rapture. So
yes.
That's incredible. Which is obviously Freedom hasn't. But obviously we had the whole under the water, undersea thing, and now it's we've gone kind of back in time with the third one, sort of even further back in time. It's like a prequel almost. And
yeah. The thing about Infinite though is there was an element of different realities, different dimensions, different timelines.
So it kind of works that they could jump about a bit and all that kind of stuff.
It's set, I think, Burial at Sea is set the day before Rapture fell. So the beginning bit of it, you'll be there in a fully functioning Rapture, seeing what life was like before it went all to shit. And then you kind of there. Cool. But you play as Booker DeWitt again, but it's like a different version of him. He's kind of like a gumshoe PI type thing. It has a very sort of noir feel. Yeah, and Elizabeth there, she's very sort of femme fatale, Elizabeth, kind of slightly more.
So I've now got to go home and start playing some Infinite. This is crazy.
The cool thing is in the part 2 apparently you will be able to control Elizabeth. And she plays a lot differently, so it'd be interesting to see what they do.
My most anticipated game of the year, I haven't finished it. So, yeah.
Well, you're just pulling a me. If you finish it, then it's over.
True, that's true. Square Enix have confirmed that we're getting a sequel to the reboot of Tomb Raider we just had.
Yep. Well, they need to make as much money as possible.
Yeah, unfortunately haven't been doing so well, and a lot of the stuff they've been putting out has kind of not made as much money. Yeah. So Tomb Raider didn't quite do as well as they'd hoped, but it had amazingly positive reviews, and once again it's a game I haven't finished yet, but what I played it was pretty amazing, and really enjoyed it, and hell yeah, we want a sequel to that shit. So
build up the franchise, build up brand loyalty. There's been quite a few shake-ups at IDOS, Montreal, and all that.
I feel like it was kind of, it was one of those games along with Bioshock and that pushed the kind of tail end of this generation of gaming.
Yeah.
As far as graphics go, and that it would be good to see next gen when they're kind of really not hindered by kind of the technology, where it's the start of a new. Presumably, it will come out within the first few years of the next generation. Would be nice, but
apparently it is sort of heavily under development. It's already underway. Awesome. They're not pre-production.
That's really cool. So I mean, we could probably expect that in a couple of years, or at least an announcement for it in a few years to be released soon after. So then that'd be good. It'd be good for them to kind of show us what they can do without having to squeeze the last little bit of power out of a machine, and have the freedom to. Because it fucking looked great considering it was running 360 and PS3.
Absolutely, yeah. This last year, the quality of the games that have been coming out have been
pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much concludes all of the video game news. We've got no review, and I don't know when we will have any reviews because we're not playing a hell of a lot at the moment, as you can probably tell. But we're going to come back in a sec with some movie news. Okay, so movie news, a whole bunch of stuff was announced at Comic-Con. We can't really not talk about some of this shit. I know you just look at him, just itching to talk about it. Ooh, dying inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so we better get on with it before it explodes.
We have to try and keep it concise though, because I could talk for hours.
No, okay, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
So we all know Avengers 2 was kind of not so much officially announced, but it's been talked about. The release date of it came out ages ago, but it's official. It's called Avengers: Age of Ultron, and it's coming out 2015. It's May something, isn't it? 2015.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, it's going to go toe to toe with another movie, which was announced, and it's kind of old news by now because by the time this episode goes out, it's been about 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're kind of But if you haven't heard, there's going to be a sequel to Man of Steel, and it's going to have Batman in it.
Yes, a new Batman.
And so it's going to be directed by Zack Snyder, produced presumably again by Christopher Nolan.
Would have thought so.
And penned by David S. Goyer.
Yep.
So
probably scored by Hans Zimmer.
All the crew's back. So basically, at the minute it's kind of touted as Superman versus Batman, and a whole bunch of names of sites were kind of registered in sort of Batman vs Superman, Superman vs Batman, that kind of shit. So as to what it's really going to be called, I think this is just kind of to throw people off the scent. I'm hoping it's not going to be called this.
No.
We had this kind of amazing discussion last night, quite in-depth discussion, which would have been awesome if we'd recorded it about
we
this
should
shit.
have done that. Yeah.
It's going to be possibly the hardest movie in the world to actually get right, to appease everybody from both fans, from the camps of the Superman, from both kind of for everyone. He's like the biggest fanboys of it. I mean, you like both, so you're kind of easily pleased with it, really.
No
Well, I
pressure
like
there.
both, putting it mildly. Yeah.
And if it's pulled off correctly, which I believe that Zack Snyder can probably do this, he's fucking crazy enough to actually make it work. If this works, this is going to be possibly the biggest grossing movie we've ever seen.
If this works, it will be probably my favourite movie of all time.
There you go.
Until my dying day.
Yeah.
But it all hinges on if they get Batman right.
Yeah, because obviously we were talking about who's going to play Batman. Christian Bale's not on the cards anymore for that. It's going to be
there were
a lot of
spouting,
risks. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with this.
Yeah, they were talking initially, or people were speculating that it would be a younger Batman, sort of be a contemporary to Henry Cavill as Superman. But then Warner Brothers said they're actually looking for someone slightly older, because the source material that they're borrowing from is for an older Batman. So they did a short list of people who would be interested on that list. You got people like Gerard Butler, Brad Pitt, Ben Affleck,
John Hamm,
who I think is probably the hot
possibly.
favourite.
Yeah, I think he'd be pretty good actually.
Yeah, Josh Brolin.
Yeah,
who
would also
would
be equally as awesome.
Yeah.
And see, the way I said this to you is that it's not so much who's going to play Batman. It's kind of you have to play Bruce Wayne as well. It's the two. There's the whole thing. So you have to kind of pull off being able to play the kind of millionaire, almost billionaire or whatever side of it, and his lifestyle, and do the kind of action, more physical side of it as Batman. So it kind of has to work as both.
Yeah, you see, this is where I really struggle, because my two hot favourites are John Hamm, who I'm sure a picture will appear right there, and Josh
Maybe
Brolin.
over there. I don't know.
Over there,
Let's see.
somewhere behind us.
Go on.
So you look at these two. John Hamm, he is the epitome of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
He's a perfect Bruce Wayne.
Absolutely.
You look at him, he looks the
Yeah, I
part,
agree.
he can pull it off. Josh Brolin is the perfect Batman for the source material.
Yeah.
He has
That's
the,
cool.
he has the kind of look. So, maybe both of them can do it, and just one of them could be out of the suit.
That would be really horrible.
But no, I have a feeling a lot of fans have been shouting John Hamm's name for a while.
Yeah.
Plus, he was in Sucker Punch,
Yeah.
so he already has ties to Zack Snyder. I would not be surprised, but either of those two, I'd be happy.
I did
with.
joke and say it's bring George Clooney back.
That's a whole different kettle of fish, and we don't have time to talk about
That
that.
boat has sailed.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah,
You should well,
I
there you
think I do agree with what James has been saying. I think when it first came out, your face was pure shock and like, oh
I
yeah.
think I made a noise somewhere reminiscent of squee,
go.
and I did a lot of that
Don't do that.
and clapping.
But yeah, no, I am looking forward to it, and I think you're right. If they can get it to that point where it is going to be one of the top grossing films.
Easily.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about
But
it.
then at the same time, if they
Yeah,
if they get it
it's
wrong.
so easy to screw
So-
up. There's
yeah.
so many things that can go wrong, but it's in good hands, I think, personally. But what do you feel about it? Because obviously the story here is that it's going up against Avengers, technically.
Yeah.
I'm personally, for me, I'm excited to see more Avengers. The
so
Superman,
what's going
Batman
on with
movie.
the release is that roughly this.
Well, they're in the same year. Don't know sort of when. About
I
in the
personally
year,
feel like the Superman Batman movie is probably going to be delayed a fair bit because of
Yeah.
trying to just get it right, because there's no point rushing that shit, but who knows.
Yeah.
I
I think either way, us as consumers win
Yeah.
because we're going to get
We
two
win big
awesome
time.
movies.
Yeah.
2015 is going
That's
to be
cool.
an
That's
awesome
cool.
year for movies.
Alright, well, speaking about things that may not be quite as well, we'll see. The head of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, announced that Star Wars Episode 7 will be fairly balanced with CG and practical effects, and John Williams is returning to do the score. That's some good news about the score.
There's lots of good news
And
about Star Wars.
the whole practical versus CG thing, I'm obviously more in favour for practical. As an audience, we're far too sophisticated now to kind of go, wow, that looks so real, when it blatantly doesn't, that kind of thing. So, CG has its place, but I feel like Star Wars has always been more about the puppets and shit,
Yeah, that's
what I love about it.
Yeah, the original trilogy, now that they had the practical effects, because that was all they had. They pioneered those effects, and then they had all this CG for the prequel trilogy, and that became a crutch, I think.
It killed it.
It absolutely killed it. Killed the immersion, killed all that.
Yeah.
CG, in that aspect, I think needs to enhance it rather than become it, because you get actors talking to sort of air, nothing, getting fake eye lines and all that, and it just kills the immersion. I can't imagine talking to some guy in a blue suit with a little dog thing on his head. That to me, that would just kill it, and that would ruin my performance. Whereas if you have actually something there to look at, it's going to do it. Plus the fact that
animatronics have come leaps and bounds, and they can emote and things now. So it's like it would literally be another actor's performance, then that they have to react to, and it just, like I say, it makes it more believable. Plus, I just think it looks better. I mean,
we want models, we want miniatures.
Yeah,
and
we
stuff
want
as
all the
well.
cool shit back.
Yeah,
if they could do that, I don't care. Like, do it on the tube if that's what you gotta do. That'd be awesome. But anyway, they won't. But anyway, okay. So we actually have a review this episode. Amazing. Yeah, miracles happen. Basically, we got the chance to go and see The World's End, the new movie from Edgar Wright. Yeah, unfortunately, sorry. The new film from Edgar Wright, featuring Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, the gang's back, basically.
The final part of the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy.
Indeed. So obviously we've had Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and it's appropriate, isn't it? So obviously we're big fans of those movies, and I'm sure we've mentioned them on the show before. I mean, how do you feel about Shaun of the Dead? Yeah, they're great, aren't they? It's good for British film, and they've done a lot. Basically, this film comes out, I think, 23rd of August in the States. So for any overseas people watching, this is maybe we'll sell this to you. Who knows?
Yeah.
But obviously, it's come out a good month before it hits US cinemas.
Have you got any plans for dinner at all?
Tonight, we will be partaking of a liquid repast as we wend our way up the Golden Mile, commencing with an inaugural tankard in the first post, then onto the Old Familiar, the famous cock, the cross hands, the good companions, the trusty servant, the two-headed dog, the mermaid, the beehive, the king's head, and the hole in the wall for a measure of the same, all before the last bittersweet pint in that most fateful terminus, the World's End. Leave a light on, good lady, for though we may return with a twinkle in our eyes, we will in truth be blind. Drunk.
There's so much to talk about. There really is. I think a lot of people's opinion on the movie that I've sort of been privy to is that a lot of people are disappointed in it.
Yeah.
And I will say this, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are not just one, but two very, very tough acts to follow. And a lot of time's passed since Hot Fuzz, it's like 2007. It's a good 5 years. And they've gone off and done other things. Edgar Wright went off and did Scott Pilgrim, which I think is an amazing film and completely underrated, and I wish that movie would have done slightly better than it did. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost went off and did Paul, which was quite funny.
And then Simon Pegg was in a whole lot of other stuff as
well. A whole
well.
bunch of other shit. Lots of voice acting in like things like Ice Age and shit like that in between. They've done a lot of stuff, and it's nice that they're all back together. Now let's talk about the film. I'll give my thoughts on, obviously we'll talk about what we feel about it, but we'll obviously I want to mention a few other things, like why I think that other people are disappointed by it.
Yeah.
So basically, we sat down to watch The World's End, having really only seen the trailer and a few kind of interviews about it and stuff like that, and kind of knowing roughly what we're going to get. Basically, the story is about 5 grown-ass men in their 40s, early 40s, reenacting something they did when they were in their sort of mid to late teens.
We all do it.
A pub crawl in their hometown. basically, essentially, what happens is their town, which they've not been back to for over 20 years, has been taken over by alien robots.
Yeah.
I'm going to use both those words, alien robots. Because they're robots, but they're kind of not from here. Yeah?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's not spoilerish at all, is it?
No.
I'm pretty sure that's in the trailer somewhere.
And when we say not from here, we don't mean like they're from Japan. They're really not from here.
Yeah. Anyways, so basically, this movie is a lot darker than the previous stuff in as far as kind of subject matter and stuff. There's Simon Pegg plays a character called Gary King, I do believe it is, and his kind of
Gary King of the Humans.
Yeah, his backstory.
It's quite a sad tale.
It's really I wasn't expecting quite so much drama to be in this movie.
I'm going to draw a comparison.
I know what you're going to say as well.
Yeah. There's an English director who's done a lot of films. Shane Meadows, done this thing, does quite dark stuff. It kind of veers off in that sort of territory at times. It's quite
at the beginning, because I don't really want to spoil. I don't think this is really a spoiler because this is what happens in the first couple of minutes. He's telling the story. It starts off with him telling the story of the pub crawl.
Yeah.
And kind of as the story comes to an end, we kind of see him surrounded by other people, and it's kind of like a
support group. And we know, obviously, some bad shit's happened in your life. Obviously, we find out more about that later, the extent of that, but it kind of sets a really dark tone for the film. And you're like, holy fuck. My problem with the first 20 minutes is the first 20 minutes wasn't that funny. No.
I don't think I laughed until about 25 minutes in and onwards. There was funny moments in the movie. I think my biggest problem with it is that they're not as consistent. We watched Shaun of the Dead, we've watched Hot Fuzz numerous times, and from minute one, it's just comedy, joke, setup and payoff, all the way through. And there's nowhere near as much setup and payoff, nowhere near as many good gags. There are small little jokes that are funny, but they're spaced out a lot between all the other stuff they're trying to cram in there. I briefly mentioned that. So basically, what happens is they start off on the pub crawl. They're kind of reluctant, but this Gary King guy has he has this way of kind of persuading his mates to do what he wants, and even if they haven't seen him in X amount of years, and there's a good reason for that. He's the fuck up, and all his mates have gone off to do better things. They all made something of themselves, and
which in some ways is a nice little twist on it.
Yeah, because
Simon Pegg is the fuck up.
And Nick Frost is all the kind of like he owns a law firm, and he's all kind of he's got his shit together and that. Yeah,
very sensible. Doesn't drink, teetotal.
Yeah,
that's a big
16 years. Oh, he must be thirsty. It's. I like those little things. The little things they've kind of flipped. They said, well, guess what? Simon Pegg is not going to be the hero so much. It really was Nick Frost's movie. I'll be honest with you. I've never been so happy sitting there watching this big motherfucker just with bar stools on his arms beating the shit out of these aliens. It's the most surreal thing I think I've ever sat through. But
that's the other thing I have to say. As different as it is from the original film, as dark as it is, it doesn't make it a worse movie. No. It is a really fucking good film. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think bringing it back to what I think people didn't like about it was obviously the comedy is sparse in this. There aren't as many. Here's a big reference to something, and the one thing that kind of works for Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz is that they're not parodies; they're homages to the horror genre or the action genre, and they use the tropes of that genre.
Yeah.
And they didn't really do it with sci-fi. This is supposedly their sci-fi movie.
The sci-fi element came out of nowhere. You could completely ignore the aliens or
if
that.
If you had no idea what this film was, you wouldn't have seen that shit coming.
And it's kind of like a shot. It just hits you and it escalates so quickly.
But they didn't really do much. There's no real... And I'm not saying references to stuff. There were obviously certain scenes that were reminiscent of other science fiction. For example, the scene where... Well, they're unaware of if they themselves are who they are, sort of thing, whether or not Gary's who he is, or whether he's turned into one of these things. There's that whole moment kind of from The Thing. That's what I kind of likened that to, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't play with the science fiction tropes, like the tropes of the genre.
No. Like
the other two movies do. So for me, it was kind of it felt like, here's a good comedy movie, let's just stick some sci-fi in. So it did feel a little forced in places where it didn't feel as natural and comedically.
It felt like, okay, Shaun of the Dead was romantic comedy, zombie film, melded together.
Yeah.
You kind of get the lead up. You get like the little signs right from the beginning that it's
Yeah.
going to turn into a zombie film. But it's just
And there were
romantic
nods.
comedy.
There was some set up like, oh, let's we're going to go on a pub crawl and get annihilated kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's
very. I think it's far too subtle in this film. There was no real big thing. It kind of came out of nowhere. It almost felt like the sci-fi was getting in the way of this quite dark, dramatic thing.
Yeah,
It's kind of like they were more pissed off by it than actually.
But it was pretty awesome. I mean, Nick Frost kicks so much ass. It is kind of funny that director Edgar Wright has gone away, made Scott Pilgrim, and he's brought back the stunt coordinator and the director of photography from Scott Pilgrim to make this movie. Who the fucking lender from this film actually shot The Matrix, so it's pretty cool. So the fight sequences are fucking amazing. They are really, really cool, and they are just the thing is, if you've seen Scott Pilgrim, you kind of know exactly what to expect, kind of.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of shots in that were like pretty much the same, but.
Yeah.
I really, really love the movie. Shout out to Pierce Brosnan for being in the fucking movie.
Oh God, yeah!
Best cameo I've ever seen him in. Best thing I've ever seen him in. He's amazing.
You'll
yeah.
love it when you
it?
see it. Yeah. He's really good.
Completely, like you see a shot of him at the beginning of the movie, you think, oh, okay, fair enough. And then he comes back later, and it's just amazing. Pretty big ending.
Yeah.
Can't talk much about that. Lots of it's really hard to talk about this movie, but it's getting kind of a mixed kind of reviews because obviously a lot of people were really expecting something very similar to Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. It is a different kind of movie. It isn't as funny. It does have some cool one-liners in it. It has some really funny moments. It has some cool fight scenes in it. The sci-fi stuff, yeah, okay, it's cool. It's
you can tell that there's one shot in particular where you can tell that's where all the budget went.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said to you when we were leaving. It's a very different movie compared to those other two. But then a lot of time has passed. They're a lot older. When you see like Simon Pegg and Martin Freeman and those guys, they look old now, and it's kind of scary. But the movie works. The movie's really all about kind of nostalgia and like there's these running themes through the three films that are kind of like, the underdog taking on this much bigger thing than themselves and overcoming all this other shit at the same time.
Facing up to his flaws and dealing with them.
Yeah. Well, this movie was also that, and it had this whole kind of nostalgic element. Like the other two do as well. It's all about kind of growing up and becoming a man as well at the same time. It's kind of fucked up. Also, a lot of movies have really good soundtracks. Like this has like a really 90s soundtrack because obviously a lot of what they're kind of reminiscing about happened in the early 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of refreshing because like you have a lot of music set in the 80s, flashback to the 80s, and 80s music. Yeah, you don't have a lot of 90s sort of tunes in films these days.
No.
It's kind of interesting. So I thoroughly recommend it. It's another few weeks until it's out in the States, but if you're a fan of the other two films, I'm sure it's on your radar. You're probably going to go see it anyway, but.
Don't expect it to be exactly like that.
Don't expect it to be. If you go into it with the mindset this is going to be, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz with science fiction, it kind of. There are elements, there are themes that run throughout the same movies, obviously, but it's very different. It has a darker twist to it. I just feel overall the only thing that really let down was the fact that the comedy. They tried to squeeze in the sci-fi and the drama a little bit, and it felt like the comedy had to take a back seat for all that. So there's this kind of natural rhythm that you expect from movies like Shaun and Hot Fuzz, where it's joke, like serpent payoff and joke and blah blah blah, and you expect it to be a certain way. And this movie kind of disrupts that kind of rhythm, so it's very different. But I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. That's my opinion on it.
I liked it as a film. If you hadn't watched the other two, I could sit down and watch this and think, wow, this is an amazing movie.
I think that's the way to do it, is not to compare it too much to the other two movies.
Yeah.
I know we have, but I feel like...
we're telling you not to.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't make our mistakes.
Yeah.
Learn from us.
Okay, so that's that. We're going to come back in a minute and talk about TV shows. Okay, for TV news, this episode, we briefly mentioned something last episode about the possibility of a season 5 or more Arrested Development. Basically, Mitch Hurwitz has kind of confirmed that they definitely want to do something else. Whether it's a season 5 or the movie that's kind of been toted about over the years, they're not sure, but they definitely want to do it once they can get all the cast together. I'm hoping for another season. I think it'd be cool because I like the way it was put out on Netflix. I wasn't entirely happy about kind of the way the show was structured, but you know, it was better than not having anything at all. So we'll see.
He said definitely this time around he wants all the cast together to do it, so it can be more like the old ones.
I'd love it. I really hope there's another season.
When he was talking about it definitely happening, he was sat right next to the content, the guy in charge of content on Netflix, and he turned around and said, "That's all right," and the guy from Netflix said, "Whatever, just get more." So Netflix well behind it. Yeah. So we will see more Arrested Development.
Another cool story that involves Netflix, especially for us in the UK. Viewers of the show hopefully by now know that we're big fans of Breaking Bad. Hopefully there's a lot of people out there who watch the show who like Breaking Bad. It's coming back the 11th of August. We will know that for the final episode or the final season. Is it the same season? Is it season 6? Is it whatever? You know,
it's the final season.
Anyway. What's cool about it is because over here in the UK there is no network that shows Breaking Bad.
No. We've got Walking Dead, we've got various other programs on various networks around here, but nothing Breaking Bad at all.
We don't get, it doesn't show on TV. So Netflix has pretty much had this kind of
monopoly.
Yeah, the whole monopoly on Breaking Bad. So that's why we've got the 5th season, the first 8 episodes of the whatever it is. 5th season already on Netflix.
We had it on Netflix as soon as it finished airing in the US, and the US have only just now got it.
Are they? Okay. So we've had that a while, and it appears that we're getting more because obviously without anyone airing it over here, there's nothing to say that they can't stick their 6 episodes on weekly, which is exactly what they're doing. The day after they air in the US, we're going to get them on our UK Netflix. Awesome. Fucking awesome. I love it.
If you start now, you might have a chance. If you've not watched Breaking Bad, I'm not saying it before. If you start now, you might get through all 5 seasons before the new stuff comes.
It's kind of cool. I'm glad Netflix they've really pushed Breaking Bad, and I think like a lot of people have seen the show, who have been they've been exposed to it through Netflix and stuff. Obviously, we can get it on DVD and Blu-ray and stuff over here, but there's no TV network showing it at all, and it's good that Netflix got behind it and. Obviously believing it as a show, and you know, I think it's awesome. I think it's only like 7 or 8 episodes or something. I can't wait. I'm fucking really excited for it. It looks awesome. But I'm glad we're getting on Netflix the day after. I mean, that's cool to be able to wake up the next day that it's been on US2 and just be able to sit and watch it.
Yeah,
cool.
it saves a lot of hassle for us having to find ways to watch it or wait for it to come out. The fact that it's going to be there.
That's great. Actually. Yeah, I kind of hope they do this with more stuff because. Yeah. In some ways it's good because it kind of, I mean, a lot of people moan about the kind of piracy side of things, people just download torrents and stuff. I'm not saying we do that, but I'm just saying like, you know, I'm not against any of that shit, you know, each to their own. If you want to do that, that's cool. You know, obviously the content providers, the people who own the copyright to the shows will have fucking something to say about that, but I think this is a good deterrent. Why don't more places like Netflix, I think they should really try and get like the really popular shows, like things like Sons of Anarchy and shit like that. You know, why don't they try and say, you know what, we'll fucking get this shit on there the day after. I know iTunes would probably have a problem with that because they like to charge you like £2.50 for an episode of a show.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're paying £6 a month, you know, do the math. Yeah. You know, much more better value there. You know.
I think Netflix are really kind of coming into their own with the amount of content that they've got coming out.
Yeah.
Alright, it's becoming much more worth it. I hope this does set a precedence because there are a lot of American shows that we can't see out here that Netflix would provide the perfect opportunity to get them over.
Yeah.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Please, Netflix.
Yeah.
Anyway, a show that I've not really been exposed to. I don't know if is it shown over here. Arrow?
I don't think so. That's one I'd like to see on Netflix.
Netflix, get on that shit. Arrow. Right. Anyway, Arrow. You can tell the story.
Okay. Basically, Arrow is a CW TV show based on Green Arrow, the character from the DC comics. So this
I've
ties
seen
in.
bits of the show and it looks pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It looks it.
Yeah, I've not managed to get around to
The
it.
character, for a lot of people, didn't know him, but he made an appearance in the Smallville
Yeah.
TV show. But this is a different character. This is a reboot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's not the same one. It's much darker, much more grown up. And
It looks fucking cool.
There's a lot of
Oh,
talk
right,
about
yeah.
could this be, before Man of Steel came out, could this be connected? Could this be in the same universe? Because it has the same sort of dark, realistic tone and all that. And, you know, Warner Brothers not said anything, but there's no reason why it can't be. But yeah, in America, I think it's done really, really well. They got a second season that they're filming now. And talking about that, one of the guest characters in there is a character called Barry Allen, who comic book fans will know is the Flash. Now, Flash, he's not one of the main superheroes that everybody talks about. When you say superhero, you don't instantly think of the Flash, but most people know who he is.
I used to watch the old show that was on in the early 90s?
Yeah.
Mid-90s? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, people know who the Flash is, and he's not just going to be a character. This is setting him up for his own series, a spin-off of Arrow. So that's going to be getting that character main out there. Now, if Warner Brothers aren't going to connect this to the DC movie universe, then they're going to have to find another way to introduce the Flash. So I would say this is probably a sign, if not directly, then at least like cross-promotionally, that this is kind of setting up the characters there to go in, because
it'd be the smart thing to do, because there's nothing worse than if they did a really good job of, like, you know, Arrow seems to have done really well. If they do a really good job of, like, rebooting Flash, and then it goes into, like, the whole, you know, Justice League thing, and kind of they replace those characters with different actors, and it starts off ignoring all that shit. That's just going to feel like so much bullshit. It really
Warner Brothers have been known to have problems with this in the past, as they don't like too many different versions of their things. Like they had the Justice League cartoon that had Batman, it had all the villains in it, and then they started a new series of Batman cartoons, and because of that, the Batman villains, the Rogue Gallery, couldn't be in the Justice League cartoons because they didn't want two different versions. So this, to me, leads me to think that this is setting up for the movie universe, for the media. And in that case, you know, that's 4 heroes that are set up ready for Justice League.
I hope so. It would be the smart thing to do on their part. I think that's something that kind of... I think a lot of small fans would have wished that the new Superman movie would have had the same actor in it, kind of thing, and kind of carried it over. But it wouldn't have worked because it's kind of a completely different story in some ways. But if they can work the storylines together, fucking more power to them. I think that's fucking brilliant idea.
Marvel's had like a big head start because they had all these separate movies that had a sort of certain length and leading up to
a lot of catching up to do. And stuff.
And this would be the perfect way to do it. In fact, it would be sort of stepping them up, because although Marvel is getting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which looks awesome, it's not directly linked to any of the superheroes.
No, it's funny that they kind of DC kind of got the kind of TV show thing first before kind of launching the movie, where it's kind of been the other way around from Marvel. They've had all the movies, and now they kind of try and do a TV show. It's kind of cool.
So this could kind of put them on even setting. But I'm really excited. I really like the Flash as a comic book geek, self-professed. The Flash is awesome, and Arrow, Flash, something we really need over here in the UK, if for no one else, just for me. Netflix.
Thoughts?
You know what, I think, you know, the amount of Marvel stuff that's been going on with Sky over here, I'm all in. So yeah, nothing else really to say.
Okay, well that pretty much wraps up television. We've got one tech story to cover. We're back in a sec with that. Okay, so for tech, we've been covering a lot of stories about kind of the way we kind of watch our entertainment, the kind of, you know, where the future lies with kind of optical media and digital distribution, that kind of stuff, and new technologies related to those. Well, it's been announced that Sony and Panasonic are teaming up to create a new disc format for 2015, capable of holding a 300 gig of data compared to the 50 that we're used to now on Blu-ray. But apparently it's going to be aimed for professional use. So presumably, I mean, we've already got kind of, I guess in the professional realm, solid state drives and stuff that can hold like 250 plus gig, or I think it's like 320 now, on a solid state drive. And I think a lot of people A lot of cameras and stuff, like big professional cameras, will utilise that. As far as a fucking disc format, an actual optical disc format, I have no idea quite what that's going to be like, whether that's for the mastering stuff and having a master to store.
Yeah, or quickly distributing rather than if you have all the data there, like you said, solid state drive, then transferring it over to disk so you can then make multiple copies.
Maybe, yeah.
Send them out to different
Be interesting.
people.
I think this is something that, if it works, presumably it's not going to be based off the Blu-ray technology. It'll be something like a whole new format altogether, presumably. This could potentially take off for when we get like 4 and 8K kind of content, you know, because I think that although digital distribution is kind of should be the kind of cheaper option, we're still always going to want that physical media. And I think there's always going to be a market for that. And I feel like this, if done right, could potentially be the new next Blu-ray or the next whatever, you know.
Yeah. But I don't think people need to worry because people right now are still adopting Blu-ray.
Absolutely. I think it's something that's this is technology that's going to be kind of developed now, but I think in 10, maybe 15 years time.
Yeah.
You know, I know technology moves fast, but there'll be something maybe based off of this that becomes our next kind of.
So maybe Sony's
format.
PlayStation 5 will be pioneering this format.
Who knows? It would be interesting. It would be interesting to see whether that happens. But
you see, right now as it stands, right now as it stands, I don't think we really need it. You can't really warrant it unless you put like 6 or 7 Blu-ray movies on.
Yeah, of course. I think it's. I think when everyone's adopted HD, when everyone's taken to Blu-ray, when 10 years down the line from that happening, we're going to be looking at stuff like 4 and 8K, and by that it probably will be 8K. By that point, we're probably going to be talking about this stuff being a realistic option for us in our homes. I feel like by then, compression technology is going to have advanced so much now that it's good. By that point, that you probably won't even need that kind of size either, really.
No.
But we'll see what happens. It's interesting. I mean, we like to be kind of selective on our tech stories and only really talk about some of the more obscure stuff that kind of isn't already out there. But yeah. But that kind of. I mean, has anyone else got any thoughts on this? It's kind of one of those things that it's like, it's mainly professionals anyway, so it's not got anything much to do with us as a consumer, but it's interesting to know that people are working on it. And
I think it just shows that there's always more. We're never going to get to a point where we as people, we as consumers can say, right, that's it, we don't need to do anything else now.
Yeah.
We can just sit and, to use a big word, languish in it. But, there's always going to be... I mean, right now, people are saying, oh, does this mean we can get bigger games and bigger all this? And I was like, yes, possibly in the future. But right now...
But you need a system to run...
Yeah,
it's not just a Blu-ray disc that can hold more storage, the data. It's a new format altogether, so you need a new player or a new console to play this. Yeah. So that's presumably what it is anyway.
There's still plenty of room on a Blu-ray to fit bigger games and more data in.
We're not ready for it yet. I mean, which is why it's for professional usage, and I guess I maybe filmmakers, maybe people who need to have like discs or this kind of storage on it, but I don't know. Anyway, it's an interesting conversation. I'm sure we'll.
If they were rewritable, that would be kind of cool.
Okay. So anyways, thank you very much for watching the show. It pretty much concludes everything we need to talk about. Bear in mind, next week on the 16th of August, the last ever episode of Awesome Sauce will air, and we are going to be saying goodbye to Retro Game Night for a little bit. On the 30th of August, the last episode of the season will air, and it won't be coming back till next June. In January, I think January 24th, we're going to be launching our new show, So Bad It's Good, and this show is just going to keep going right until kind of end of November. I think 17th of November, I think is the last episode of the season.
Yep. So you're stuck with us.
So another 7 or 8 episodes to come from us before we take a break for holidays. But yeah, no, brilliant. Also check out the Screamcast show that I do. In the latest episode, we'll be talking about The Conjuring, which we decided not to talk about on this show.
What scared James?
We saw the trailer for it before we saw World's End, and there's like 2.5 minutes of the most uncomfortable I've ever seen you. That's saying some shit. It's a dark room.
I think my reaction was nope.
We didn't have popcorn. He was just kind of like, I think you had your bag. You're kind of holding your bag. You're like, oh fuck. No. And kind of rocking, and the other people were looking like, what the fuck is this problem? But yeah, if you want to hear me talk about that, my review of it should be up on the latest episode of the Screamcast. And cheers to anyone who listens to that. What other shit have we got to plug? About it, really, I think. Awesome.
Interesting choice
Choice
of words.
Yeah, true. Okay, well, I'll leave it on that. That's probably best. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with episode 12 and a whole bunch more cool shit to talk about.